There is a universal truth about love that few people are willing to accept. The most dangerous betrayals rarely begin with cruelty. They begin with kindness, with attention, with a feeling so powerful that it convinces you that fate itself has chosen someone for you. And sometimes the person who makes you feel the safest is the very person preparing to break you. And tonight, I want to tell you a story about the final betrayal, a story about deception, power, and the psychology of taking your life back. Her name was Isabelle. She lived in a rainy coastal city where fog drifted between old buildings and the streets glowed beneath golden streetlights. Isabelle was thoughtful, ambitious, and independent. She worked as a graphic designer and had spent years building a life she was proud of. Love was not her priority. Peace was. Then she met Ethan. The encounter felt almost impossible to explain. A chance meeting inside a small bookstore during a stormy afternoon. A conversation that began with a shared interest in psychology and lasted until the store closed. There was an immediate connection, the kind that people often describe as destiny. Ethan seemed perfect. He listened carefully, remembered every detail, finished her sentences, shared the same dreams, the same fears, the same values. It felt as if he had stepped directly out of her imagination. But what Isabelle didn't know was that Ethan possessed a remarkable ability. He knew how to become exactly what someone wanted. Psychologists often call this mirroring. By reflecting another person's emotions, beliefs, and desires, trust can form at an astonishing speed. And trust was exactly what Ethan wanted. Within days, his messages became constant. Every morning started with affection. Every evening ended with long conversations. Flowers appeared unexpectedly. Small gifts arrived at her apartment. He called her extraordinary, different, the woman he had waited his entire life to find. Friends described their relationship as magical. Isabelle believed she had finally met her soulmate. But there was another psychological force operating beneath the surface: love bombing. Love bombing occurs when overwhelming affection is used to create rapid emotional attachment. The target feels adored, valued, irreplaceable. The manipulator gains influence. The faster the emotional bond forms, the harder it becomes to question what is happening. And Isabelle never questioned it. Why would she? Everything felt perfect. The dates, the conversations, the future plans, especially the future plans. Ethan talked constantly about the years ahead, the home they would buy, the vacations they would take, the family they might build. Every promise made the relationship feel more real, more secure, more permanent, until one small moment changed everything. 3 months later, they attended a charity gala overlooking the harbor. The evening was elegant. Music filled the room. Rain tapped gently against the windows. Then, Ethan's phone lit up. He glanced at the screen. For less than a second, his expression changed. The smile vanished. A flicker of anxiety crossed his face. Then the smile returned, instantly. "So who was that?" Isabelle asked playfully. Ethan laughed. "Just work." The answer sounded harmless, completely normal, yet something inside Isabelle felt uneasy. Not afraid, not suspicious, just uneasy. The feeling disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. She ignored it, because when someone feels like your soulmate, doubt feels almost impossible. But sometimes, intuition notices danger long before evidence appears. And hidden behind Ethan's perfect image was a truth that would eventually destroy everything Isabelle believed about love. A truth his body language was already struggling to conceal. If you've ever felt that gut feeling that something wasn't right, you aren't alone. Subscribe to Human Secrets Hub so you never miss a sign. Like this video and comment "truth" to unlock the next part of this story. The cracks in the mirror. The truth rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive with a confession, it doesn't arrive with proof. Instead, it slips through tiny cracks in a carefully constructed mask. A glance, a hesitation, a reaction that lasts less than a second. And for Isabelle, those cracks were beginning to appear everywhere. At first, the changes were almost invisible. Ethan still called her every morning, he still sent affectionate messages, he still talked about their future together. But something had shifted. The warmth felt less natural, the compliments sounded rehearsed. The attention that once felt effortless now felt calculated. Most people would have ignored it. After all, nothing was obviously wrong. But intuition works differently. Intuition notices patterns before the conscious mind can explain them. And Isabelle's intuition had started whispering. The first major sign appeared 2 weeks after the charity gala. The couple was having dinner at a quiet waterfront restaurant. The atmosphere was perfect. Soft music, candlelight, the distant sound of waves. Then, Ethan's phone vibrated. He looked down at the screen. For a split second, fear flashed across his face. Not surprise, not annoyance, fear. Then it disappeared almost instantly. His smile returned, his voice remained calm, his posture stayed relaxed. But Isabelle had seen it. Psychologists call this a micro-expression. A micro-expression is an involuntary facial expression that appears before a person can consciously control it. The emotion leaks out before the mask can be restored. Fear, guilt, anxiety, shame. These expressions often last less than half a second. Most people never notice them, but once you understand what you're seeing, they become impossible to ignore. "Everything okay?" Isabelle asked. Ethan smiled. "Just a work issue." His answer sounded reasonable, but his face had already revealed something his words were trying to hide. That night, Isabelle couldn't stop thinking about it. Why would a simple work message trigger fear? The question lingered, and soon another clue appeared. Several days later, Isabelle invited Ethan to a family gathering. The request seemed innocent, normal, the kind of milestone every serious relationship eventually reaches. But the moment she mentioned meeting her family, Ethan's behavior changed. He looked away repeatedly. His eyes moved toward the window, toward the floor, toward passing strangers, anywhere except her. Whenever she returned to the topic, the same thing happened. His eyes escaped, his attention drifted, his discomfort became visible. Psychologists refer to this as eye-blocking behavior. When people experience emotional discomfort, guilt, or internal conflict, they often avoid direct visual engagement. The brain attempts to create distance from the source of stress. People may blink excessively, look down, look away, or suddenly become fascinated by objects around them. It's often subconscious, and Ethan was displaying it constantly whenever conversations became personal. The moment the topic changed, his eye contact returned, as though nothing had happened. But Isabelle was paying attention now, and paying attention changes everything. The third sign appeared at a corporate networking event. The room was crowded, business professionals moved between conversations, laughter echoed through the ballroom. Everything seemed ordinary. Then Ethan received another message. Immediately, his hand moved to the side of his neck. He rubbed it slowly, then again, and again. His breathing became slightly heavier. His smile tightened. The reaction lasted nearly a full minute. Psychologists call this the hand-to-neck touch. The neck is one of the body's most vulnerable areas. When people feel anxiety, guilt, pressure, or emotional conflict, they often touch the neck subconsciously as a self-soothing behavior. It's the body's attempt to calm internal stress. What disturbed Isabelle wasn't the gesture itself, it was the consistency. Every mysterious message triggered the same response. Every difficult question triggered the same response. Every discussion about commitment triggered the same response. Micro-expressions, eye-blocking, hand-to-neck touching. 3 separate behaviors, 1 hidden truth. The pieces were beginning to connect, and once patterns emerge, they become difficult to ignore. That evening, Isabelle sat alone in her apartment watching rain slide down the window. For the first time, she stopped listening to Ethan's promises. She stopped focusing on his words. Instead, she focused on his behavior, because behavior leaves clues, and clues reveal truth, and patterns reveal truth. As midnight approached, a terrifying possibility entered her mind. What if Ethan wasn't simply hiding a secret? What if the entire relationship was built on one? What if the man she believed was her soulmate had carefully constructed an illusion from the very beginning? The thought sent a chill through her body, because deep down, she already knew something most people refuse to admit. When someone's actions and words constantly disagree, the actions are usually telling the truth. And very soon, Isabelle would discover exactly what Ethan had been trying so desperately to hide, a discovery that would lead to the final betrayal. The shattering. There comes a moment when every illusion reaches its breaking point, a moment when the truth becomes too large to hide, a moment when the heart must choose between fantasy and reality. For Isabelle, that moment arrived on a cold autumn evening. The rain was falling steadily across the city. Streetlights reflected against wet pavement, and somewhere deep inside, Isabelle already knew her life was about to change forever. For weeks, she had watched Ethan's behavior carefully. The nervous reactions, the secretive messages, the body language that contradicted his words. The signs were everywhere. But love has a strange way of delaying the truth, because sometimes the hardest lie to overcome is the one we tell ourselves. That evening, Ethan claimed he was attending an important business meeting across town. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. At least that's what he wanted Isabelle to believe. But intuition had finally become stronger than trust. Hours later, while meeting a friend near the Harbor District, Isabelle saw something she wasn't supposed to see. Across the street stood Ethan. He wasn't alone. A woman approached him. He smiled, the kind of smile he used only with Isabelle. Then he kissed her, not casually, not briefly, like two people who shared an intimate life together. The world seemed to stop. Every excuse disappeared. Every doubt vanished. Every warning sign suddenly made sense. But the betrayal didn't end there. As Isabelle watched from a distance, she saw them enter a nearby apartment building. Minutes later, a young boy ran into Ethan's arms. The child hugged him tightly, and Ethan hugged him back, like a father, because he was. In a single, devastating moment, the truth became undeniable. Ethan wasn't having an affair. He wasn't secretly dating someone else. He had an entire hidden life, a partner, a child, a family. Everything he promised Isabelle already belonged to someone else. Yet, despite witnessing the truth with her own eyes, part of her mind still resisted it. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance occurs when two conflicting beliefs exist at the same time. One belief said, "Ethan loves me." The other said, "Ethan has been deceiving me from the beginning." The brain hates contradiction. It wants emotional stability. So when reality threatens a cherished belief, the mind often creates excuses to protect itself. This is why people stay in toxic relationships. This is why red flags get ignored. The mind often protects hope before it accepts truth. The next day, Isabelle confronted him. She showed him a photograph she had taken. For the first time, Ethan looked trapped. But instead of admitting the truth, he attacked her reality. "You're overreacting. It isn't what you think. You're imagining things." This was gaslighting, a manipulation tactic designed to make someone doubt their own perception. The goal isn't to prove innocence. The goal is to make the victim stop trusting themselves. For a brief moment, Isabelle felt the old confusion returning. Then she remembered the micro-expressions, the eye blocking, the hand-to-neck touch. His body had been telling the truth for months. Finally, Ethan stopped arguing. The silence that followed was louder than any confession. And in that silence, Isabelle understood something powerful. The greatest betrayal wasn't his hidden family. The greatest betrayal was teaching her to doubt her own instincts. Now she stood at a crossroads. She could remain trapped in the pain he created, or she could reclaim the power he spent so long trying to control. 6 months later, she would make her choice, and everything would change. The phoenix rising. Some months later, the rain still fell over the city. The streets still glowed beneath the evening lights. The bookstores, cafes, and waterfront paths remained exactly as they had before. But Isabelle was no longer the same woman. When Ethan's deception was exposed, the pain felt overwhelming. Every memory became a question. Every promise became a lie. Every photograph became evidence of a reality she never truly knew. For weeks, she replayed everything in her mind. The first meeting, the late-night conversations, the future he promised, the hidden family he never mentioned. At first, she blamed herself. How could she have missed the signs? How could she have trusted someone so completely? But healing began the moment she asked a different question. Not, why did this happen to me, but what can this teach me? That question changed everything. Instead of studying Ethan, Isabelle began studying psychology. She wanted to understand manipulation. She wanted to understand why intelligent people ignore red flags. Most importantly, she wanted to understand how to trust herself again. Her search led her to a powerful concept known as subconscious reprogramming. Psychologists often describe the subconscious mind as a blueprint. It stores beliefs about love, trust, worthiness, and relationships. Those beliefs quietly influence decisions without us realizing it. As Isabelle explored her own beliefs, she discovered something surprising. For years, she had carried an unconscious belief: if someone chooses me intensely, they must truly love me. That belief made love bombing feel romantic. It made emotional intensity feel like commitment. It made manipulation feel like connection. To heal, she needed a new blueprint. Every morning, she spent time writing new beliefs into a journal. I trust actions more than words. My intuition deserves respect. I do not confuse attention with love. I am worthy of honesty. I choose reality over fantasy. At first, the words felt unfamiliar, but repetition creates belief, and belief shapes behavior. Slowly, her confidence returned. She joined personal development groups, read books on emotional intelligence, started exercising consistently, spent time with supportive friends, and for the first time in years, she learned how to enjoy her own company. The most important change wasn't external, it was internal. She stopped defining herself by the betrayal. She stopped seeing herself as a victim. Instead, she saw herself as someone who survived manipulation and became wiser because of it. One evening, while walking along the harbor, she saw Ethan across the street. For a brief moment, their eyes met. The old Isabelle would have felt heartbreak. The old Isabelle would have searched for answers. The old Isabelle would have wondered whether he ever loved her at all. But the new Isabelle felt something different: peace, because she finally understood a truth that many people spend years learning. Closure does not come from the person who hurt you. Closure comes from the meaning you give the experience. Ethan smiled, the same smile that once convinced her he was her soulmate. But now she could see it clearly. Charm is not character, attention is not love, and promises are meaningless without integrity. Without saying a word, Isabelle continued walking forward. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden inside every betrayal. The strongest people are not those who never get deceived. The strongest people are those who transform pain into wisdom, trust themselves again, and never surrender their power to anyone who has not earned it.